Hey everyone, welcome back to Baz Bites. Tom here again with part 3 of our Intersight series. Today we're going to take a deep dive look into server policies and profiles, so let's check them out. Intersight gives you powerful control over the low-level policies associated with your standalone C-Series servers. The only caveat here is that this only applies to standalone C-Series servers. We don't yet have this capability for UCSB or anything managed by UCS Manager, so nothing connected to Fabric Interconnects. But the capability set is quite powerful, and soon you'll be seeing more features around blade servers and those managed by Fabric Interconnects. So let's start where we left off, taking a look at one of my C220 M4s in my lab, and we'll go right to the server profile page. In here you can see some basic details about the profile itself, along with the cool stuff, which is all the policies associated with that profile. So the way it works is you create a collection of low-level policies that are for very specific aspects of server configuration, such as right here we've got an NTP policy, which just specifies that we're going to enable NTP and define a particular server. And then these policies are aggregated and associated with what we call a server profile. So this particular server I'm mocking up as a software-defined storage node based on a Cisco validated design. So I've outlined these 5 main server profile or server policies, and some of these policies leverage sub-policies. So we've got things that are as basic as NTP, we've got some slightly more sophisticated policies such as boot order, and then we've got some really interesting policies like LAN connectivity. So very, very cool. Once you have a server profile associated with a server, you're going to see all this detail contained within the server profile. But if you're just starting out with Intersight and you don't yet have any server policies or profiles built, but you have fully configured nodes, again, C-Series standalone nodes, what's awesome about Intersight is it gives you the ability to pull in that configuration from nodes that do not yet have a server profile. So in this case, I'm looking at another node, very, very similar node, but this one, if you go to the server profile tab, you'll see it does not have a server profile assigned. So once in here, I can go ahead and click on the Actions menu, and I can actually import server profile, which will just bring up a small little menu that will give me some information that I can populate around the naming convention to be used for this server profile, and will give me some of the fields that it needs to get rocking and rolling. So very, very cool. It will apply that prefix to all the low-level policies that it pulls from SIMC. So really quite nice if you want to get started and you've already got configured nodes that are configured via SIMC. So let's go into the way in which you actually instantiate these policies. Under the Policies menu, you'll get a rundown of all of those low-level policies, along with usage information. That basically tells you whether or not that particular policy is directly applied to a server profile and being used by a server. So I've got a bunch of them in here, and you'll notice some of these, like Ethernet network, are just sub-policies, little components that I use within larger policies, like my LAN connectivity policy. To create these, very, very easy. I can just click on Create Server Policy, select the type of policy that I'm interested in, click Next, and then go through the process of actually creating the policy. So I can just say, BIOS Basic, go into the next area, and this is where you get the ability to define exactly what you want to have applied to the server. So in terms of BIOS, there's a great deal of granular settings you can apply. Anything and everything that's contained within the BIOS is available within here. So if I want to go in and adjust very specific power and performance settings, or I want to adjust memory settings, whatever it may be, I can go ahead and tweak those variables and create the policy that fits my needs. So once you have a number of policies created, you can come back into the Profiles section and actually apply those server policies to a profile. So in here, I can say Create Server Profile, and what's nifty is that I can either start from scratch and create all of my low-level policies within this workflow, or I can leverage policies that I already created, reuse assets that I've already invested time into, and apply those to a server profile. So really cool. It gives you a nice way to slice and dice this out. You've got the 4 main pillars, that being compute, network, storage, and management, under which you can define the low-level policies. So here's where I had BIOS earlier. I can just go ahead and select the policy, and if I've got any that are applicable to the organization that I'm configuring, they'll appear there. So like NTP we saw earlier, I have my NTP policy, and even within this screen I can click the little view icon to take a look at what that policy entails. But if I want to create a new policy, I can do so right here and not interrupt the flow of my server profile creation process. So I'll just cancel out of that. We'll go right back out to the main area, and using this flow, I can then create a fully fledged policy that again contains any and every bit of configuration my server may need. And then ultimately, once I complete the creation of at least one, or the selection of at least one policy, I can then assign that to a server, or leave that in my system as maybe a golden template to be applied to a server later. So a really handy way that you can apply a single server profile. And what we recommend is that you potentially leverage the concept of a golden template. I have something here like a SDS node template, and what that allows you to do is actually create a number of these profiles and clone it out to a series of machines. So if I want to go ahead and do a clone process here, I can do a simple clone, create one copy of this server profile and apply it to another node, or I can do a multiple cloning and development workflow, which allows me to then take this take this server profile, apply a prefix if I want, so maybe just remove the word node, and now I can have a nice prefix for all the nodes that will take the cloned copy of that golden server profile. I can specify the number of clones that I desire. I can add tags if I'm so inclined. Then I just have to decide which servers this will be applied to, or I can just create the clones if I want them to just sit in my server profile inventory. And then from here, I can push out a consistent configuration to as many servers as I need. So a really awesome way to invest your time in Intersight, creating the very precise profiles to control your servers, assign those to server profiles, and then push those server profiles out to your nodes. Again, the only caveat here is that this only applies to standalone C-series servers today, but you'll see a lot more information around both the capabilities that we have coming for Fabric Interconnect nodes, or nodes connected to Fabric Interconnects within UCS domains, and you'll also see in my future videos some cool information around creating very specific low-level policies, specifically around things like LAN connectivity. I hope you enjoyed part 3 of our Intersight series here on BazBytes. In part 4, I'll be going over my favorite automation capabilities, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until then, see ya.